In this video, I'm going to be doing one of the hardest retouching parts of the human anatomy, which is going to be the neck, chin, and general jowl area. The reason that it's so difficult is that there is a gradient that runs underneath the chin from a dark to a light. You have creases and uh, texture shift and there's all different sorts of things going on, so it makes it incredibly difficult to do a satisfactory retouching where you can't tell that anything was done. So I picked this image because it wasn't overly complicated, because I only have the 14 minutes in this video with which to do this. So as you can see, we have a chin, a cheek, and a neck. And basically I need to get rid of this ring around his under chin, as well as clean up some of these extra creases in the neck. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to zoom in under here. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to go to the stamp tool, and then I'm going to begin trying to soften this area under the chin. Now, I'm not going to go in with 100% opacity. I'm going to bring that down. We'll start with 25%, because I'm not looking to completely remove any shift in color or gradient that's going on. All I'm really trying to do is get rid of that dark ring. Now, one of the things you need to keep in mind is that you do have a variety of brush sizes that you can use. You don't always need to use a tiny brush, you don't always need to use a big brush. Keep adjusting, keep changing your point of focus when you are doing the stamp tool. That's really the trick of it, because if you keep doing the exact same area over and over again, you will see a repeating pattern. If you constantly move around and shift, then it will be much more believable. Using this tool is a lot like modeling clay. You're you're trying to sculpt the area. You're redefining it. Okay. So now at this point I've got some blur going on and some texture and some of something. Kind of hard to tell. Let's try and redefine the edges of his neck a little bit. Maybe that will help redefine the inner areas. So if I grab right there and I essentially just bring in the neck just a bit, and again, we're trying to redefine these points of interest. Another important thing is that you can't lose sight of the bigger picture because you've gotten so engulfed in a tiny little area. You have to work on everything at once as a group. Don't just sit there and work on just that tiny little bit. You need to move around. It's very important to continually work the left, the right, the middle, the top, the bottom. Again, it's like clay. Move. It's a three-dimensional object, even though you're working in one-dimensional space. Okay. Now, here's an example where I feel I pulled a little bit too much away from the side of his face. Well, that's why we're on a different layer, because all that is still underneath. So what I can do is I can either create a mask and paint in the mask. I could take the eraser tool and I can go back and just redefine these areas a little bit. Okay, so now at this point what we actually need to do is go in and put more definition into his chin. We actually need to recreate more of the shadow going on underneath. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to go with a brush, and from back here I'm going to grab a color, nice dark color, and then up here I'm just going to give it a nice big 10% swoosh. We're on a separate layer. Don't worry about touching things. We're going over the shirt. We're going over his cheek. Don't worry about that. All we're doing is creating some definition within his neck to give it that curvature. I can then go back in afterwards with the mask, making that 100%, and erase that extra stuff away. I'm actually going to leave it a bit there. Okay. Here, I'm going to darken this a little bit. Then I'm going to brush in, not at 100%, again 10%. Just give it a little bit more. Then I'm going to go under Filter, Noise, Add Noise, Gaussian blur, monochromatic. I'm going to bring that down. 2% looks about right. Probably won't be able to see much of that in the video. And then I'm going to bring that opacity down a bit, like that. And now I can see some repeating pattern going on, so I can come back over here with the stamp, 25%. Now remember what I was saying, just constantly move. Move around, create shape, definition. And another thing that we might be able to do here is, I very rarely recommend this, but we can dodge a little bit. Just to create more of a shine. I don't want to say shine, more of a highlight that runs along his face, down his chin. Now, I did not go too far with this as far as adding the highlights, because for more I would actually be pulling back on these cheeks, to be honest with you. I would be going the step further and filling in these highlights on his cheeks because they're too pronounced. So I'd actually be pushing this back more along the lines of that. His forehead, all this would actually be going more subdued so that it filled in better. So that's where we started, and that's what I did. And this is more of a progression. Like I said, by filling in these areas, brightening the whites, dimming the shirt, emphasizing the jacket, and doing these other things, bringing that around the head in the front to more definition of the head from the background and everything. All these things will pull away from the fact that we just went in and cloned out his neck. And then it won't be as obvious as what we're doing right now, which is staring right at it, is really what it is. See more of a pattern there. You just want to go and get rid of those things as they catch your attention. You can adjust the noise to again do some breaking up of the modeling that we did under his chin. Another thing I would consider is grabbing another image, which might have more of his chin back in place. As far as grabbing some of this texture, because that's really what we're losing down here, is the texture of his whiskers on the very under part. But I am running out of time on the video, so I do have to cut this short. But there's always more that can always be done. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please go to www.theartofretouching.com.